you doing? Tom, Ted, whoever you are.
I'm Ted, and I'm still Tom.
In a career that spanned over 4 decades, Freddy Fender achieved fame and popularity as a solo artist and as a member of the Texas Tornadoes and Los Super 7. What became of the Tejano music star? Stay tuned to find out. What happened to Freddy Fender?
I'm Terry Mann.
How you doing, Kerry?
Well, now you know my name. We were discussing hats earlier.
I'm Freddie.
We're into hats.
I see everybody's into hats, so I had to get a hat.
Freddy Fender was an American Tejano singer known for his work as a solo artist and in the groups Los Super 7 and the Texas Tornadoes. His signature sound fused country, rock, swamp pop, and Tex-Mex styles. Active since the 1950s when he got his start playing Spanish-language rock and roll for Tejano audiences, Fender's mainstream breakthrough came in 1975 with the crossover hit Before the Next Teardrop Falls, which topped Billboard's pop and country charts. He recorded further country hits such as Wasted Days and Wasted Nights, Secret Love, You'll Lose a Good Thing, Living It Down, and The Rains Came. Fender, the bebop kid of the Texas-Mexico border who later turned his twangy tenor into smash country ballad, died on a Saturday, October 14, 2006, age 69. In August, Fender's wife and manager, Vangie Huerta, had announced that her husband had inoperable cancer and was hoping for a miracle after being told by doctors in June that he had multiple tumors on his lungs. In an interview with the Corpus Christi Caller-Times before his death, Freddy expressed his acceptance of his health condition and commented on how comfortable he felt. Often one to speak frankly about his battles with substance and alcohol use, Fender's career was deeply affected by his struggles with alcohol and substance use. His early life, marked by poverty and instability, contributed to a turbulent personal journey. His musical success also marred his pattern of self-destructive behaviors of heavy drinking and substance use. Fender's addiction led to numerous setbacks. At one point, his career stalled entirely, as he found himself in rehabilitation centers. He also spent time in jail for substance-related charges, which almost ended his just-developing music career. These struggles with addictions led to several health issues that eventually cost Fender's life. Fender had long-time health issues, from struggling with diabetes and hepatitis C, and requiring a kidney transplant in 2002, using an organ donated by his then 21-year-old daughter, Marla Huerta Garcia. In 2004, he also received a liver transplant. Fender was said to have died around noon at his home in Corpus Christi with his family at his bedside, in a statement by Ron Rogers, the family's spokesman. Besides his daughter Marla and wife Vangie, whom Fender married in 1957 and divorced around 1993 and then remarried in 1995, Fender is survived by 3 other children. It had never been an easy life. As Fender told People in 1979, he was born Baldemar Huerta and hailed from South Texas, specifically the poor farm town of San Benito, a region that has long mixed its music, and where Bob Wills blended big band sounds with country, and Marty Robbins grafted mariachi guitars onto Nashville ballads. Fender, whose career started when he returned from service in the Marines in the late 1950s, took his stage name from the brand of a guitar. Initially pursuing a rock country Latin sound, he recorded Spanish versions of hits by Elvis Presley and Harry Belafonte. But that early start was interrupted by a 3-year prison stretch for marijuana possession in Louisiana during the early 1960s. He hit it big in 1975 with Before the Next Teardrop Falls, which climbed to #1 on the pop and country charts. The song not only captured the hearts and minds of country music listeners, but also topped the rock and pop charts as well. This smash hit went on to sell well over 1 million copies and was a worldwide hit. With later dozen top 10 hits, including 4 #1s, Freddy Fender's place in country music history is secure. The event behind Fender, Before the Teardrops Fall, hit single. Numerous artists recorded the song before Freddy Fender, but only found modest success. The original version was first recorded by Dwayne D, but D was drafted during the song's release, and it only peaked at number 44 on the country charts. Linda Martell gave it her own spin in 1970, reaching number 33 on the Billboard chart, and Jerry Lee Lewis even recorded a version on his 1969 album, Another Place, Another Time. Producer Huey P. Moe had already worked with Fender and was dubbed the Crazy Cajun. He approached Freddy in 1974 to record Before the Next Teardrop Falls, but Fender initially didn't want to record the song. Later, Fender changed his mind and decided to record the song anyway. He performed the first half in English and the second half in Spanish. He thought he was pretty much done with the song after they rapped, but couldn't have been more wrong. The song took off and was an immediate success, skyrocketing to #1 on the Hot Country Singles chart in 1975. The song also hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became the top 5 song of the entire year. Fender went on to secure 4 additional #1 hits on the country charts. While one could say that Before the Next Teardrop Falls really jump-started Fender's career, Mo produced the song with a Tex-Mex approach, which helped the song resonate with audiences and even led Fender to release more bilingual singles, including Secret Love. He also released a version of the song completely in Spanish. There were only 6 songs in 1975 that topped both the country and Hot 100 Billboard charts, so this was an incredibly impressive feat. It definitely contributed to Fender winning the Single of the Year award from the Country Music Association. The song, which was certified gold by the Recording Industry Association of America for over 1 million sales, was life-changing for Fender and also helped pave the way for future bilingual hits on the radio. Freddy Fender's music career journey. Fender, originally named Baldemar Garza Huerta at birth, was born in San Benito, Texas, United States, to Margarita Garza and her Mexican husband, Serapio Huerta, and grew up in abject poverty. His parents were migrant farm workers. Fender grew up in a culturally rich yet challenging environment. Raised in the border region between Texas and Mexico, his early life was shaped by the fusion of Mexican and American traditions, a blending that would profoundly influence his music later in life. Fender's childhood experiences are reflected in his distinctive sound, which combined elements of country, rock, and Tejano, with a deep resonance of his Mexican heritage. Growing up in a bilingual household, Fender was exposed to both Spanish and English music, and this cultural duality would form the foundation of his musical style. His family was poor, and Fender often experienced the hardships of rural life, including economic struggle and discrimination as a Mexican American. These hardships imbued his music with a sense of emotional depth, as he sang about love, loss, and longing in a way that resonated with many listeners facing similar challenges. Fender's early exposure to music came from his family, who played traditional Mexican songs, and from the radio, where he heard a mixture of country, blues, and rockabilly. He began playing guitar and singing at an early age, and by his teenage years he was performing in local clubs and on the radio. These formative experiences shaped his approach to songwriting, often blending English and Spanish lyrics and incorporating both Latin rhythms and American country twangs. His early experiences with racial inequalities, which saw him undergo a name change and a sense of displacement as a Mexican-American living in a predominantly Anglo community, further influenced his music. Fender's sense of identity as both an outsider and a part of two cultures allowed him to create a sound that transcended musical genres, connecting with listeners from diverse backgrounds. This unique blend of influences helped establish Fender as a pioneering figure in the crossover between country and Latin music. At the young of 10, he made his debut radio performance on Harlingen, Texas, radio station KGBT, singing a then-hit titled Paloma Querida. In an interview, Fender often spoke of how his interest in music got its start while working in the fields. He recounted how at night he would hear the music and sneak out onto the street where he would see these little fireflies of light, which were the cigarettes in the hands of the musicians as they performed. Fender dropped out of high school at age 16 in 1953, and when he turned 17, he enlisted for 3 years in the United States Marine Corps. He served time in the brig on several occasions because of his drinking, and he was court-martialed in August 1956 and discharged with the rank of private. However, later, according to Fender, he received a letter from the Department of the Navy stating that he wrongfully received a dishonorable discharge because of alcoholism, and he was given a general discharge. He returned to Texas and played nightclubs, bars, and honky-tonks throughout the South, mostly to Latino audiences. In 1957, then known as El Bebop Kid, he released 2 songs to moderate success in Mexico and South America, including the Spanish-language versions of Elvis Presley's Don't Be Cruel and Harry Belafonte's Jamaica Farewell. He also recorded his own Spanish version of Hank Williams's Cold, Cold Heart under the title Tu Frío Corazón, which roughly translates to Your Cold Heart. He became known for his rockabilly music and Eddie Con los Shades persona. In 1958, he legally changed his name from Baldemar Huerta to Freddy Fender. As he was making his way in the music business and trying to transition into mainstream, Fender's managers decided the name Baldemar Huerta just didn't have that marketing aura to bring in the money. Freddy loved guitars. He was always carrying one as a kid, and Fender was his favorite brand. Thus, he took Fender and Freddy because the alliteration sounded good and would, according to him, sell better with gringos. By 1958, his records, sung entirely in Spanish, were doing well in Texas and Mexico. Gradually, he turned to the more commercial fields of rock and roll and country. His Spanish version of Elvis's Don't Be Cruel went to #1 in Latin America. He then relocated to California. A year later, Fender recorded the blues ballad Wasted Days and Wasted Nights, which according to his daughter was written for his wife who was about to leave him because of his raucous and dangerous lifestyle caused by his pursuit of a music career. The song seemed to work, and she stayed with him and everything seemed to be moving well. Unfortunately, Fender was beset by legal troubles in May 1960 after he and a band member were arrested for possession of marijuana in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Fender was prosecuted and sent to jail. After serving nearly 3 years in the Louisiana State Penitentiary, he was released through the intervention of then-Governor Jimmy Davis, who was also a songwriter and musician, and inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 1972. Following his early release, Fender would face a challenge that was perhaps, for him, even greater than incarceration. His entire life, Fender grew up as a man playing and performing music as an integral part of his life. He claimed he was told that one of the conditions of his parole was that he stay away from music entirely, while at other times said it was merely to not be near any establishments that served alcohol. The outcome was the same. It put a stop to the one thing he enjoyed more than anything in his life. While in today's environment, the crime he was charged with, as well as the conditions of his parole, would be considered untenable, but at the time, it was considered normal. So the song Lonely Days and Lonely Nights, as well as his album recorded in prison, would spend 11 years waiting before ever seeing the light of day. By the end of the 1960s, Fender was back in Corpus Christi, Texas, working as a mechanic and attending the local institution of Del Mar College, and became a sociology major while also playing music only on the weekends. Success finally arrived in the next decade. Freddie would achieve national fame when producer Huey Moe convinced Fender to bring his soulful tenor to country music to write music and record Before the Next Teardrop Falls in 1974. This album changed everything for Freddy Fender. It was a hit for both country and pop stations and could be considered the crossover of all crossovers for a Mexican-American artist at that time. The single Before the Next Teardrop Falls was selected for national distribution and became a #1 hit on the Billboard country and pop charts. It sold over 1 million copies and was awarded a gold disc by the RIAA in May 1975. Throughout his career, Freddy Fender would have his music covered by Loretta Lynn, Dolly Parton, LeAnn Rimes, and many other notable names in country and in pop. His next 3 singles, Secret Love, You'll Lose a Good Thing, and a remake of Wasted Days and Wasted Nights, were also well received and were massive hits, with all 3 songs reaching the #1 spot on the Billboard country chart. Between 1975 and 1983, Fender charted a remarkable 21 country hits, including Since I Met You Baby, Vaya con Dios, Livin' It Down, and The Rains Came. The single Wasted Days and Wasted Nights became Fender's second million-selling single, with the gold disc presentation taking place in September 1975. Fender was also successful on the pop charts. Besides, Before the Next Teardrop Falls reaching #1 on the pop chart, Wasted Days and Wasted Nights also went into the top charts records. His other singles, Since I Met You Baby, You'll Lose a Good Thing, Vaya con Dios, and Livin' It Down all did well on the pop chart. At the Amusement and Music Operators Association (AMOA) Jukebox Awards in 1975, Fender was awarded Artist of the Year and Record of the Year for having the highest earning songs played on jukebox machines in the United States. Fender music was heavily influenced by the swamp pop sound from southern Louisiana and southeast Texas, as is shown by his recording of swamp pop standards on his 1978 album, Swamp Gold. One of his major hits, Wasted Days and Wasted Nights, has a typical swamp pop ballad arrangement. Fender associated with several swamp pop musicians such as Joe Barry and Rod Bernard, and issued many recordings on labels owned by Huey P. Moe, a Cajun who specialized in swamp pop. Fender wasn't only into songwriting and music, he had interests in films and was casted in some film projects. In 1977, he appeared in the movie Short Eyes, and 2 years later played Pancho Villa in a Western, She Came to the Valley. The late 1970s were, artistically, the best years of Fender's life, but his addiction to substance and alcohol use took a toll. After constant persuasion from his wife and friends, he spent time in rehabilitation in 1985. 3 years later, Robert Redford gave him a part in the Milagro Beanfield war film. He also appeared as Tony in the prison movie Short Eyes, a 1977 film adaptation, directed by Robert M. Young, of the Miguel Pinheiro play. Fender also played the role of Pancho Villa in the 1979 film titled She Came to the Valley, which was later released as Texas in Flames. The movie was directed by Albert Band and was based on the book by Cleo Dawson. Fender would also appear as himself in an episode of the television series The Dukes of Hazzard. By 1989, Fender was playing bookings for Peanuts when he was asked to co-found the Texas Tornadoes. Fender teamed up with fellow Tex-Mex musicians Doug Sahm, Flaco Jimenez, and Augie Myers to form the iconic Texas Tornadoes, whose work meshed conjunto, Tejano, R&B, country, and blues to wide acclaim. Reports have it that when the Texas Tornadoes went to audition for Warner Brothers Records, Fender did not think that the group was strong enough, so he brought his own band. The audition was nearly a bust because he played country music and that was not what the executives were looking for. Fender was then persuaded to play some vintage rock and blues numbers, which was what the executives were looking for, and was subsequently given a record contract. After being a solo act for most of his music career, Fender wasn't so sure if signing with a group was a good thing. According to him, he just wanted to record for a major label, and that was what propelled him to sign with the group. The band enjoyed considerable success, both as a live act and on record. This rekindled interest in Fender's older recordings and led to a new solo contract with Warner Brothers. The group would go on to release 4 albums and win a Grammy Award in 1990 for Best Mexican-American Performance for the track Soy de San Luis. Later in an interview, Fender described the group as the old guys in the street. Following the death of Sam, the Tornadoes' production slowed. However, a live 1990 appearance on TV's Austin City Limits, one of 3 the group made, was released in 2005 as part of the Live from Austin, Texas series. By the late 1990s, Fender joined another supergroup called the Los Super 7, with Los Lobos' David Hidalgo, Cesar Rosas, Flaco Jimenez, Ruben Ramos, Joe Ely, and country singer Rick Trevino. The group would go on to achieve wide success, even winning a 1998 Grammy in the Mexican-American Performance category for their self-titled disc. In 2001, Fender made his final studio recording, a collection of classic Mexican boleros titled La Música de Valdemar Huerta, that won him a 3rd Grammy Award, this time in the category of Latin Pop Album. Joe Reyes, who worked with Fender in 2004 for a Texas Folklife in Austin tribute titled 50 Years of Freddy Fender, commended the album and praised Fender. Freddy Fender's death and legacy. By the early 2000s, Freddy was widely rumored to be suffering from serious health challenges which were reported to be life-threatening. On March 13, 2001, Fender was erroneously reported to be dead by Billboard. He laughed off the magazine's error. Freddy would later undergo a kidney transplant in 2002 with a kidney donated by his daughter and a liver transplant in 2004. Nonetheless, his condition continued to worsen. He was suffering from an incurable cancer in which he had tumors on his lungs. On the 5th of June, 2005, Fender was present for the dedication of a $1,400,000 water tower in San Benito. The tower is said to bear an image of Fender along with the words, San Benito, hometown of Freddy Fender, and is visible when driving east on United States Route 83 through San Benito. On December 31, 2005, Fender performed his last concert and resumed chemotherapy in a last fight against cancer. He died on October 14, 2006, at the age of 69 of lung cancer at his home in Corpus Christi, Texas, with his family at his bedside. He was buried in his hometown of San Benito. A funeral mass for him was celebrated at the Queen of the Universe Catholic Church in San Benito on October 18, 2006. The mass was preceded by a funeral procession along Freddy Fender Lane, past the home where he grew up in the El Jardín neighborhood. Singer Charlie Rich, Jr., who had once been a member of Fender's band, sang the singer's legendary Before the Next Teardrop Falls during the service, while Texas Governor Rick Perry and Congressman Solomon Ortiz attended the service. Freddy Fender was buried with military honors at the San Benito Cemetery. He was survived by his wife, 2 sons, and 2 daughters. In death, Freddy Fender's musical colleagues recalled him as a musical icon whose influence on future generations of rock and roll, country, and Tejano musicians was substantial. Before his death, Fender, in a 2004 interview with the Associated Press, expressed his desire to become the first Mexican-American inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. In the 17 years since that statement was made, no Mexican-American or Latino has been inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. Fender, despite his many accomplishments and obvious musical footprint in country music, is still the Phantom of the Opry, but he remains an inspiration to many Latinos and Mexicans, hidden in the shadows and attempting to make their own way in the country music industry authentically. Freddy Fender was truly the embodiment of the American dream, from a migrant worker who came from a small town and worked hard, to building a name for himself to provide for his family, and setting a legacy that lasts through generations. With his twangy tenor and his pompadour haircut, Fender became one of the few Hispanic stars to have such an illustrious career in country music. He even became the first Mexican-American to cross over successfully to mainstream pop, effortlessly breaking the racial barrier. Freddy Fender lived a life that was full of adversity and struggle, yet he met it with patience and perseverance. Given the specific challenges of his times, those could be harder than anyone can truly measure. Freddy's bilingual music and Latin sounds can be heard to this day. Tim McGraw has highlighted him on more than one occasion by singing his songs with a full mariachi band backing him. Charlie Crockett has made a point to mention Freddy's influence on his life to pursue country music. On the 17th of November 2007, a Freddy Fender Museum and the Conjunto Music Museum was opened in San Benito. The museum shares a building with the San Benito Historical Museum. His family also maintains the Freddy Fender Scholarship Fund and donates to philanthropic causes that Fender supported while he was alive. In 1975, Freddy won the Academy of Country Music Award as the most promising male vocalist. The same year, he won the Country Music Association Award for the Single of the Year for his hit single, Before the Next Teardrop Falls. He was then nominated for the Grammy in 1975, 1976, and 1997. 10 years earlier, he had been inaugurated into the Tejano Music Hall of Fame. He also performed at inaugural balls for Presidents Bill Clinton and George H.W. Bush, before winning the Grammy Award for Best Mexican and Mexican-American Album in 1990 for the Texas Tornadoes. In 1993, Fender was at the European Walk of Fame in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. A year later, the Freddy Fender Lane was dedicated in his hometown of San Benito, Texas. In 1999, Freddy was inaugurated into the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Texas Music Hall of Fame, and Nashville Sidewalk of Stars. He also won the Grammy Award for Best Mexican-American Performance for Los Super 7. In 2001, he was inaugurated into the Louisiana Hall of Fame and was awarded the Grammy Award for Best Latin Pop in 2002 for La Música de Valdemar Huerta. In 2009, annual Freddy Fender Humanitarian Award was established alongside the Freddy Fender Water Tower in San Benito, beside Steam Academy. In 2023, Fender was labeled Texas Historical Marker for his contributions to Tejano, rock, and country music. Freddy Fender enjoyed a career that spanned multiple decades and showcased both his musical versatility and adaptability within the entertainment industry. Known for his rich blend of country, rock, and Tejano music, Fender's ability to transcend genres played a significant role in his longevity in the music business. His unique sound, a fusion of country's twang and the soulful rhythms of Latin music, allowed him to connect with both mainstream and Latin audiences, marking him as a cross-genre artist. Fender's voice, characterized by its deep emotional delivery, helped his songs transcend language barriers, particularly evident in tracks like Before the Next Teardrop Falls, which became a hit in both English and Spanish versions. This bilingual appeal further solidified his position as an artist capable of connecting with diverse audiences. Fender's long career wasn't limited to music. He also ventured into acting, where his versatility continued to shine. He appeared in a number of films and television shows, often bringing his musical talent to his roles. One of his most notable appearances was in the 1982 film The Milagro Beanfield War, directed by Robert Redford. The film, which dealt with the struggles of a small New Mexico town, featured Fender's music prominently, and he also had a cameo as a singing cowboy. This was just one example of how Fender's music and presence found a place in film, blending seamlessly with the storytelling. Through both his musical innovation and his occasional work in film, Freddy Fender maintained a career that spanned decades, showing the power of versatility in the entertainment industry. His longevity in the music world can be attributed to his ability to evolve with the times while staying true to his roots, and his brief but memorable film roles demonstrated his broad artistic appeal. Fender's legacy remains a testament to his multifaceted career, one that not only survived the test of time, but flourished by embracing change. As of 2024, Freddy Fender's legacy remains vibrant in the music industry. His recent posthumous releases, such as Los Buenos Tiempos and Tex-Mex blues continue to celebrate his musical prowess and cultural heritage, garnering attention from collectors and new fans alike. Fender's profound influence on contemporary artists reflects his enduring relevance, as many modern musicians cite him as a significant inspiration in their work. The establishment of the Freddy Fender Museum underscores the lasting impact he had on music and culture. As his story is perpetuated through vinyl records and his extensive catalog, Freddy's artistry continues to resonate, making him a beloved figure in the mentions of great musicians. His career, which spans across 4 decades, would no doubt continue to serve as a source of influence and inspiration from present music stars and generations to come. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.